Oh, really? No, we're not. No, we're not. You're gonna start. Okay, everyone, please quiet down for Medium K's beautiful presentation. Because Medium K, she's very supportive. She's one of the best speakers in TAMKEEN. I think you guys already know that. Yeah. So make sure you pay attention to her presentation because you know she has a lot to say there, and she helped me with my presentation. So like obviously you know that her presentation's like the best. It's gonna be one of them. So yeah. Now let me just hand the microphone to Hideo.
So everyone, give it up for Medium K!
That's good. Yeah. Okay, yo, everyone, give her a round of applause.
Welcome to my presentation. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Quran and science. Well, actually, first of all, Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to my presentation. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Quran and science because there have been many misconceptions. About, well, what Islam thinks about science or modern science. And I wanted to ask a quick question before I get started. Who here likes science? Okay. I hope that after this you guys become a little more interested because I think this topic is very amazing and it's just crazy to think about. So before I start, I want to let some people know that science does not lead to atheism. Some people may think this because as science has evolved, it has slowly taken away God from its meaning. For example, in the Golden Ages, the Muslims helped the Greeks and the Romans and the Europeans with science, and they also had that little part where they included God in it. But as time passed by, they slowly started to take away the definition of science and take away God from it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that science leads to atheism. So whatever that's said in here, it completely supports the Quran, it completely supports Muslims and Islam. So who watched this video? Wow, very few. So this is the video that, oops, I can't. So I'm going to play it for you guys because I think it's really good to start off with it. This is not the video.
Hi. There are many different types of maps in the world. Most people are familiar with the typical road map, the one that helps you find where you were going back in the day before GPS and Google Maps or even MapQuest. Remember those? Few of us know that there are also political maps, economic maps, climate maps, and even a map depicting every country England has ever invaded. Oh yes, and spoiler alert, there were a lot of them. Did you know that NASA has something called fluorescence maps, which measure chlorophyll fluorescence light and offers a new view of the world's land plants? These maps are based on data collected from the spectrometer aboard a Japanese satellite and are the first to focus on land vegetation and to cover the entire globe. Chlorophyll fluorescence offers a more direct window into the inner workings of the photosynthetic machinery of plants in space. With chlorophyll fluorescence, we should be able to tell immediately if plants are under environmental stress before outward signs of browning or yellowing of leaves become visible. So said Elizabeth Middleton, a NASA Goddard-based biologist and a member of the team that created the maps. Joanna Joyner of the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center says humans can't see this light. Our eyes just aren't that sensitive. To see the light that's emitted from plants all over the world, we have to use scientific instruments that are placed on satellites. The quantum theory of quantum physics tells us about the coherence of light. It proposes a dual nature of light, meaning that light can behave simultaneously as particles or waves. Light gives plants the energy they need to grow, but what happens if plants receive too much light? The answer is they glow. This neon glow is actually happening around us all the time, and it's the result of a cellular process where light from the sun is transformed and released as fluorescent light in a phenomenon called chlorophyll fluorescence. The light exits the plant cell and is released into the atmosphere, which is why NASA stated that their satellite instruments have given climate researchers an unexpected global view from space of a fluorescent glow from land chlorophyll. Would you believe me if I told you that that bottle of olive oil on your kitchen counter also gives off a fluorescent glow that can be seen in space in much the same way as planet Earth glows? Or would you maybe start to question my IQ? It's not bad, by the way. It's true, folks. Olive oil, that rich substance we love to drizzle on our pasta or douse our salads with, emits a coherent light that makes it glow by fluorescence in the same way as our planet glows in space. Olive oil is unique among the majority of oils in that it is a product of a fruit rather than a seed. As such, it has a different constitution and naturally contains the green-coloured plant pigment chlorophyll, which is fluorescent. Though it may appear dull under regular light, hit a clear glass of olive oil with a green laser and the oil will glow red. And it's not just lasers that will get the olive oil to fluoresce, ultraviolet lamps will do the trick too and are accepted as an official method for the identification of the purity and grade of olive oil, according to the US Bureau of Standards. But before the existence of these specialised instruments that detect the fluorescent light emitted by plants on planet Earth from satellites in space, or the discovery of the quantum theory that explains how it all works, the Quran actually addressed this issue in a fascinating verse. In verse 35 of chapter 24, the Quran says, Allah, God, is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of his light is like a niche, pillar, and it is a lamp. The lamp is in a glass. The glass is like a brilliant planet lit from an olive tree, which is neither of the east, i.e. neither this tree gets sun rays only in the morning, nor of the west, i.e. nor does it get sun rays only in the afternoon. But it is exposed to the sun all day long. Its olive oil would almost glow forth of itself, though no fire touched it, light upon light. The verse likens the glow of the planet with the glow of the oil derived from olives, as both shine in the same way by fluorescence. Both are also dependent on the same physical phenomenon fueled by quantum physics, and both emit a coherent light. Coherence is one of the most important concepts in quantum physics and is strongly related to the ability of light to exhibit interference effects. A light field is called coherent, like the light from lasers, when there is a fixed phase relationship between the electric field values at different locations or at different times. Coherent light waves are waves with a constant phase difference. They will have the same frequency and wavelength. When two waves meet, they will interfere and superpose. This is called the quantum principle of superposition, and it's at the heart of quantum mechanics. If you look in the dictionary, the word superposition technically means one upon another. So when God says light upon light in the verse I mentioned just now, he's referring to superposition of light waves, one upon another. The fact that the Quran states that olive oil glows is in and of itself a miracle, as lasers and ultraviolet lamps now used to detect such a glow did not exist back then in any way, shape or form. Although planet is defined as a body that orbits a star, in our case the sun, and produces no light of its own, and although olive oil is dull under regular light on their own, but the Quran also asserts that they glow in a similar manner. What's more, the Quran refers to it as light upon light, long before the existence of the quantum theory of coherence, which now confirms the superposition of light waves. So the question remains, how could the Quran have known to use such a comprehensive analogy 1400 years ago? Was the Prophet Muhammad a quantum physicist? The answer could only be that the Prophet Muhammad had received divine revelation from God, the creator and originator of the universe.
So basically that was just a video to kind of get you guys thinking about science and the Quran and how they're both related. And now I'm gonna get into science in my presentation. But first, I'm not gonna jump right into Quran and science. I wanna just give you guys some information about science so that you have some background info. Okay, so the main sources that I'm using today are Dr. Nagar and Nidar Gassoum. So both of these people. One is a scientist and one is a professor and a author, and they talk about how science is related to Quran and for example, I'm going to talk about the Young Muslim's Guide to Modern Science first. And in that book, this book, he first explains some basic information about science, like I'm going to do, and then he gets into the theories that people have for modern science and how that is incorrect or correct in Islam, and how we can think about it as young Muslims just in an American society where we don't know what's right from wrong. And I chose these two because I feel like they have really good sources and the things that they say are really nice. And sometimes I might disagree with some things, but overall, it was good. Okay. So what is modern science and why do some thinkers criticize it? So one of my favorite quotes is said by Henry Poincaré, I hope that's how you say it, and it's, "Science is facts, just as houses are made of stones, so is science made of facts. But a pile of stones is not a house, and a collection of facts is not necessarily science." And if you didn't get what this means, it's basically saying that science can be used as an analogy with houses, because houses are made of stones, and stones are kind of like those strong things that make up a house, like the wall behind you guys, that's made of stones. That's why this university is like strong. But it's also kind of related to science, because science is also made of facts. Without facts, then we wouldn't be sure whether science was actually real or fake. And then it says, even though a house is made of stones, that doesn't mean that a pile of stones is a house. You can just have a pile of stones right there, but you cannot call it a house. So if you have a pile of facts and you cannot connect those facts together, how can you call that science or logical reasoning? So there are two important concepts for today's scientific knowledge that they use in science all the time, and that would be correlations and statistical significance. So first I'm going to zoom in into correlations and tell you guys a little bit more about that. So correlations are relationships or connections between two or more quantities, and so there are positive correlations and negative correlations. Positive correlations are when two factors increase or decrease together. For example, if we have, if you study for a test, what's going to happen to your test score? Answer together. Yeah, so basically what people said, very quietly, is that as you study more, your test score is going to increase because you have more knowledge about the content that would be explained. So the more you study... Wake up. Okay, so, yeah. Wait, I'm actually going to use expo marker because that's easier. So basically, another example of a positive or negative correlation, I'm going to go with negative correlation this time because we already described positive correlation. Positive correlation is when both of them are increasing at the same time. So if, like I said, the more you study, the more your science test results will become better. But also another positive correlation is if they both go down. So basically, for example, the older the world gets, it's getting old, guys. I don't know, actually that's a bad one. I had it on my... Okay. So also, this is related to school again because, guys, school is important. So if you're more absent in school, the more you're absent, the worse your grades are going to be. So your attendance decreases and your grades decrease. A negative correlation, however, is when one is increasing and the other is decreasing. Does that make sense? Okay, good. And an example of a negative correlation is the hair on people's heads. So basically, as people grow older, their hair decreases on their head because that's how it works with guys. Okay. So some people might say that correlation is causation, but that's not necessarily true. And why is that? I'm going to explain right now. So, for example, a correlation between two quantities, A and B, could be due to a third factor. So in the examples that I gave you guys, there were only two factors. There was the person's age and the hair on their head. But what if there was a third factor? For example, or for instance, because I said example a lot. If you have, if you're in the summer and you want to go get some ice cream, it's been noted that there have been shark attacks due to ice cream sales, guys. But is that actually how it works? That's not necessarily true, because in the summer, it's hot, so people want ice cream, and it's also hot, so they want to go swim outside. And when they swim, there happens shark attacks. But does that mean that ice cream sales caused the shark attacks? That's not true, which is why correlation does not imply causation. Now we're going to move on to statistical significance. It's okay. So basically, it's easy for people who aren't scientists to misunderstand the term significant when they come across it in an article. So you guys don't have to worry about that. That was just there because the slide would have been blank. But basically, when you read an essay and you come across the word significant, can someone tell me what they think of it? For example, my grades are significant to me, guys. Someone? Okay. Yes. Important. Good job. So that's what happens when you read an English article. But what does it mean when you read a science article? When researchers say that a study was statistically significant, they don't necessarily mean that it was important. What they mean is that so basically, when they studied the subject, there could have been groups being studied are real, or whether they're simply due to chance. For example, So if you're making an experiment and there's a chemical in it, and when you put that chemical, you're like, okay, I think that this chemical is going to make this acid evaporate. Or when you put the chemical, you might say, I think this chemical is going to make the acid increase or solidate, meaning become a solid. And so basically what statistical evidence significance would mean in this situation is that the thing that happened to this acid was due to chance, but that's not necessarily how it is, because statistical significance is kind of like, I don't know how to explain this to little kids, but if you took algebra, you know what rise over run is, right? And that would be the slope. And the slope is basically, kids, listen, little ones, because I'm doing this for you. So this is kind of a slope, and rise over run would be what comes from here down to there. That would be the rise over the run. You're running to the point. And this is connected to statistical significance because it's saying that if this is what happens in this time, if the acid increases, then that's what happened then. But then if the acid decreases, that is statistical significance because it's different. It's completely different from each other. I probably don't make sense. Yeah, like what? Yeah, like what Ahmad Azmi's mom said, it's having an effect on the information you have. Ahmad, are you listening? Okay, you better be. Okay, I promise it'll get more interesting. I promise. Okay, so basically I'm going to move on to the basic science that you need to know. And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the Big Bang Theory, because that seems to be one of the biggest things that we have a problem with in Islam. Many people don't necessarily think about it through science. They just think about it like, oh, this is what people said, but that's not true, I don't believe it. But actually what the Big Bang Theory is that it's kind of like it's kind of like events after each other, and whichever event you choose, that's the Big Bang Theory. So the Big Bang Theory has three different... Okay. Actually, I'm not going to tell you guys. What do you guys think the Big Bang Theory is? Okay, Habiba?
Isn't it like and then it created the whole universe?
What?
Isn't it like when people believe like there was a huge explosion thing and then it created the whole universe?
Okay, that's good. Okay, does anyone have any other ideas? Okay.
Speak up, come on, speak up. Give me.
So the theory about the Big Bang is a very small micro that supposedly has either exploded or imploded, and then it just happened to cause matter because before that the whole universe was a microwave. It was too hot for any sort of matter to form. And so since it was microwave, and then it started getting cooler, and then microbe formed, and then exploded or imploded outwards, and then it was supposedly something that a microbe created the whole universe.
Okay, good job. You are on top of it.
I'm a god.
Does anyone else have an idea? Okay, so basically the Big Bang is the event that began our universe. And remind me of your name. Abdul Karim did really nice explaining it, and so did Habiba. And I think they both hit it straight on, but there was one point that all of you could have mentioned, but that's okay because I'm going to tell it to you guys. So the Big Bang happened. The way it happened was a great mystery, and it started from a gas. A titanic cosmic explosion happened, which is kind of like what Abdul Karim said, and Habiba also said this, but she stated it more directly. And the universe began expanding and has never ceased to do so, which means it had never stopped. So after this explosion, the world is still growing, and it's still expanding as we talk right now. So if you take a balloon and you blow air into it, that's our universe. And the more air you blow into it, that's how it's expanding. And so on the balloon, let's say the balloon is the universe, and there's planets, there's stars, there's the sun, and each one is kind of becoming a new thing as the world expands. And scientists say that it's a fact, and they're trying to prove that God didn't create the universe. So, but why do scientists say that? And what type of explosion is the Big Bang? So the Big Bang is not an explosion like an A-bomb. And we're not talking about an explosion that could blow up this planet. We're not talking about an explosion that could even blow up the sun. We're talking about an explosion that caused all the stars and planets that were in one mass to become spread out and to keep on spreading out to this day. So So there's 3 different instances where you could explain what the Big Bang Theory is. The first one is that the explosion at the moment of creation. And explosion is in quotation marks because we're not absolutely sure of that. And we have no idea what happened, so we cannot confirm this theory. The second thing that you can think about the Big Bang being as is the first few moments of the universe and what happened then. So using this, we know very well and very precisely what happened and what the physical processes produced. And the third one is the entire theory of physical evolution of the early universe. And we know this for sure because we actually have evidence of evolution. But as you can see from the beginning, the explosion isn't necessarily true, and that's what they're trying to get at. It's the beginning, but they don't know where that beginning came from. So some people ask, what is the universe expanding to? And George Lemaitre was the first to realize that the expansion of the universe implies a start from something very small, and what he called a primordial atom of energy, which is what Abdul Karim was trying to describe. And, oh gosh, that was loud. Okay. And today we refer to that atom as the Big Bang, and I told you guys what the 3 different things mean. And in the Quran it states, أَوَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. And it means that, have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing, then they will not believe. And this kind of proves the Big Bang Theory, because it's saying that the earth and the heavens were, the universe and the heavens were connected into one thing, but then they split, which kind of describes the explosion, as Habiba stated. So basically I'm going to move on to modern biology, and is it accepted in Islam? So modern biology was widely rejected by Muslims, including educated people. When they took a survey, and this was actually a recent survey, about 60% were rejecting the modern biology that scientists were explaining, and an additional 20% were voicing that some of it is true, and they had some doubts about it. When they said that some of it was true, they were saying the evolution of biology for animals is true, but not necessarily for humans. Now, where do they get this from? So the Muslim students who are in college, they got this theory from the methodological confusion that the Quran should not be referenced within any scientific theory or result. And basically what this means is that the Quran states everything and we should believe it right away, and we don't necessarily have to believe what science is saying. But what the Quran is saying, where they got this, is from the story of Adam alayhi salam, and it's saying that he was created from clay. So what they think is all humans were created from clay. But the misconception in that is actually that the first human was created in clay, and after that came in cells and atoms and matter and all that stuff that we're also all made of. So when people use the Quran, they should be using it as a book of spiritual, moral, and social guidance, that it encourages people to explore the world and fold that knowledge within its theistic worldview. And what this means, I feel bad, people are sleeping. And what this means is that when you use the Quran, use it as a way to guide your life, not as a way to say, I believe this, I don't believe that. This is true, this is not true. The Quran does say some stuff like this, but you also have to open yourself towards other things and try to gain more knowledge about the world.
So Mariam, I know that some people here today, specifically for this question, let me kind of formulate it in 2 questions specifically, Mariam. is the Quran basically a book of science? Should we really consider Quran? It has a lot of scientific miracles and we should keep going along this line. Or no, Quran, as you mentioned, it has some other stuff like the spiritual things, correct? So this is one question, is how far should we be opening the doors for this field? The second question, and feel free to address either one in whatever order you like. I know that as you are going through your presentation, you are going to say, this is what has been discovered in science, this is what has been said already in Quran, and see how the two of them are matching. But are there any situations where science is not matching Quran? Maybe they did wrong job in science. I work here in university and I know how the PhD students can falsify some of the results to graduate, and whatever they thought was fact few years ago, they changed their mind nowadays. So as you are mentioning science and where Quran and science they agree together, where are the situation, or have you found any where they disagree?
Just a second, I'll call on you, Sally.
Then it's going to be yours, inshallah, to jump in and attack.
My answer to that would be that the openness of Quran to reinterpretation was recently underlined by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, and he stated that if Darwin's theory is proven, we can find Quranic verses that would fit with it, and that was. Wait. And so here it says, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَّةٍ مِّن مَّاءٍ فَمِنْهُم مَّن يَمْشِي عَلَى بَطْنِهِ وَمِنْهُم مَّن يَمْشِي عَلَى رِجْلَيْنِ وَمِنْهُم مَّن يَمْشِي عَلَى أَرْبَعٍ يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And here it's saying that Allah has created every living creature from water, and of them are those that move on their bellies, and of them are those that walk on two legs, and of them are those that walk on four. Allah has created that He wills. Indeed, Allah is over all things competent. And basically what this brings back...
Answer to my question is, every scientific fact you are going to find the proof for it in Quran. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is it your answer?
Yeah.
Okay, barakallah.
And Sally, you wanted to say something?
I had an answer to that question because I was a physics major before I moved, so I know a lot of the stuff that you're saying right now. And one of the main things that comes to mind when you're talking about how the Quran cannot match up with science is the theories of how the universe will end. And so there's basically three main theories. There's steady state, where basically the universe is flat and it's not going to expand anymore. And then there's the big freeze, which is we're expanding at a very high rate, so everything's just going to freeze off. And then there's the big crunch, which everything is going to go back to the way it started. So it started with a big bang and then it's going to end with a big crunch. And in the Quran it says, I actually don't know the exact verse, but I was talking to my mom about it and she was saying that it says that it's going to end the way it began, right? Or something like that, something like that, I don't remember. Yeah, something like that. And so my mom was saying it would end in a big crunch, which is not what scientists are saying now because of how fast the universe is expanding due to dark matter and dark energy. So and then that made me think of how things aren't matching up with the Quran. But the thing is that Allah can do anything. So even if right now science is saying, no, this cannot, it would be impossible for the world to end this way because there isn't enough gravity in the center of the universe, so nothing can bulk up and end with a crunch. Allah can make it happen. And I think that's what we need to remember, that with the Quran, it's a miracle, and Allah can do anything, even if we right now with our simple feeble minds think that we can't. And that's all. Thank you.
So to say, if you say that any significant information in the science you can find in the Quran, this is completely incorrect. First, you had to deal with the Quran, that's the word of Allah. So it's a miracle. In every ayah, it's a miracle. But who can understand these miracles? It's a need a lot of study, a need of a lot of people. And so the Quran said, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So Allah opened for us to search and make all of the search we need to deal with our life. And all the series now, you think it's a fact, maybe after 10 years it will be not a fact. And you can say how they said about the Big Bang. In the first, they will said, like Batlamous and all of this, they said Earth is the center of the world. And they have another series, and it was fact in this time. Now the fact change. So don't it change the Quran and it changes the explanation of the Quran according to science. No, because we trusted 100% only in the Quran. But science can change easily. And Darwin theories have a lot of defect. I'm a doctor and I know, and it's a lot of fallacies. Not from the Muslim side because we don't believe in it. No, it's the scientific, it has a lot of fallacies. So a lot of people, non-Muslim, atheists, didn't believe even in Darwin theory. So we don't twist our Quran to come according to the science. No, we don't need this. Exactly.
One more about us.
One more? I just wanted to say, I think basically what all of us are getting at, or the people who spoke are getting at, is that it's dangerous and it's a slippery slope to use science as a measuring stick, for example, for a religion, for Islam, because like Dr. Rasha said, there are things that have changed a lot in science, and science is based a lot on observation, because cold-hearted, there's never, like a conclusion is never actually 100% fact. So from like a scientific study or something like that, it's based on observation. But I still do think that stuff like this, we shouldn't use science necessarily as a measuring stick for deen and how much it like weighs in our heart. But I think that this type of stuff is important because it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knowing, and there are times when scientists are able to discover parts of the universe that they were previously unaware about, thus learning more about the universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created and revealed information about thousands of years ago. So I still think it's important to look at it, but it's important not to completely focus on this and say science is the way I'm going to measure Islam, because obviously there's a lot of contradictions in that statement.
في إعجاز علمي في القرآن، لكن ما فيش حاجة اسمها تفسير علمي للقرآن. because علماء الدين قالوا ده لا يجوز. القرآن بتفسر كله على بعض. لكن في إعجاز علمي في القرآن، هذه الآيات اللي أنت جبتيها جزاك الله خير. لكن أنا ما أجيبش القرآن أعمل له تفسير علمي على فاكت ممكن تتغير بكرة. because this is makes the Quran عرضة إن في lying. And we 100% sure in the Quran, but we are not 100% sure in the science. Science changes the game.
Okay, go ahead.
So within the science you have studies, you have theories, and you have laws.
Yes.
So laws are the ones which are actually been proven mathematically and empirically. Means you can demonstrate it, conduct an experiment, and prove your point. For example, first law of thermodynamics. Two objects with different temperature, if they are brought together, they will reach an equilibrium over a period of time. But this, even though it is a law, it is not a theory, it has been proven wrong two different places in this world. First one, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, that He has created the water and there is a barrier between the waters, one cannot cross the other. We know that thing happens in South Africa where the fresh water meets the seawater and fresh water stays separate from the seawater. And also we also know from science that within the big oceans we have different temperature zones. While the thermodynamics says if you bring two things together, and this is the first law of thermodynamics, that they will come back to equilibrium over a period of time, but they stay in different time zones. So these are the contradiction or the limitation of the science that we know of. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, when Quran is said, it is the absolute truth. Science may come and touch it and may go away from it. Science is not the yardstick to be used for the confirmation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah has said. Also this theory of evolution, again it is, what is the first word here? Theory. Nobody has conclusively has been able to prove it. Okay, and if you read Harun Yahya's book, The Theory of Evolution, he goes in very many details and proves with different scientists and different, anthropologists and everybody else who have been doing this research on the evolution, and they prove that it is not possible. Theory of evolution itself contradicts. For example, if we came from apes, how come apes even exist today? How is that possible that some apes evolved and other apes didn't evolve? So there are a lot of limitations. Again, they are theories because they have not been proven conclusively. They have not been able to prove empirically, and that there has not been proven mathematically. Jazakallah khair.
1 minute, because we want to listen to the opinion of Maryam.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Very simply, what I see here is that there's always going to be a split of opinions, and people are going to think, we're trying to use science to prove that the Quran is true, which is not even the objective here. It's very simple, that we learn from Quran, which is the best teaching, and Allah, His guidance to the prophets was to use the language of the actual ummah that they sent to, like Sayyidina Musa. Allah had actually sent with him all the revelations, which is miracles, and pharaohs were actually very, very deeply involved in this, so this is the way to talk to them. We're actually in a very modern society that everybody is talking with a lot of knowledge. Obviously some are, like we say, theory, and some of them have rules and foundations to what they talk. Well, we're trying to tell them that you're missing the actual true book, which is like the gentleman was saying, that it's the only truth. That if anybody that doesn't have knowledge of the Quran, especially we're trying to give you guys some proof to talk to those people that are not actually believing or atheists, or actually talking about that the Quran is just a very old stories, to tell them a fact that the Quran covers everything from A to Z, in science, in knowledge, and in evolution, and all of those that you guys come in close to are only scratching the surface. So we're not trying to contradict, what people are saying now, that the Quran is actually the way to prove that science is right. No. Quran is always going to be right. We're only scratching the surface of the truth of the Quran. The fact that you guys have to learn and really read the Quran in a way that you know for sure it's the only authentic source that you can believe in, and people around you that can doubt your beliefs, you can show them in a way that they can talk about science. We can also have all the details in science. Otherwise, Allah would not even get mentioned in the Quran all those sciences that we just heard from the video, for example.
I appreciate everyone's opinions and thoughts that have been spoken. Thank you for that, because I might have communicated something that I didn't mean to communicate. Do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
But if you go to Iran and go to West, you'll end up in a different place.
Okay. Okay, good job. So, can I have everyone's attention, please? So, as I was saying, I didn't mean to communicate that we're measuring the Quran using science. I meant to say that we can confirm things from science using the Quran, and I should have said that more directly, which was my fault. I apologize. And basically, when I was saying that, I meant to say that when I said that the openness of Quran to interpretation was recently underlined by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qardawi, and he stated that if Darwin's theory is proven, we can find Quranic verses that will fit with it. I meant to describe it and say that if his theory is correct, and we will only know if it's correct only if there's a verse in the Quran that can say it is correct. So we don't know it's correct until we actually find a verse in the Quran that says his theory is true. So we don't know if his theory is true or not, because as our brother said, it's only just a theory and it's not confirmed. And I'm back to this. Okay. So when stating that evolution is against the teachings of Quran, people have said this because there was in the Quran that said that Adam was created from clay, like I said. And because it says that, that's where people are saying they don't fully support evolution. And that makes absolute sense, because the evolution is saying that they came from mammals, like we came from monkeys and chimpanzees and stuff like that, which doesn't make sense. And it doesn't only make sense to us, but like I said, in the survey, there were 20% people that were not Muslim that said the evolution does not make sense. And this actually surprised me, because I was talking to my friend on Friday, and we were talking about evolution. She's not Muslim. She's supposedly Christian, but she says that she doesn't practice. And she told me that she just thought about it, and evolution doesn't make sense. How can we come from monkeys, and like Brother Muhammad Ali said, monkeys are still here? How can we have evolved but monkeys still exist? And that's a flaw in science. How much time do I have left?
Sorry, I took also an anthropology class. Okay, so basically evolution, the theory is that we all come from a common ancestor, right?
Yeah.
And so basically we all come from like a single-celled organism. Well, mashallah, this single-celled organism brought all of us together or whatever. And so yeah, and the thing is with apes, that question that you asked, how are apes still alive? Well, I asked my professor the same thing, and he was saying that evolution isn't because apes like humans came from apes, that means apes no longer exist. Apes are needed in the environment. It's just that there's a branch of apes that like spread off and they became whatever. But the thing is, so I also tried, and I think Yasser Al-Qadi, he brought like a really good point about this when I asked him, because he was saying, so there's a lot of other kinds of species that came before Homo sapiens, like Australopithecus and Neanderthals and all that weird stuff. And basically what made scientists say that evolution happened is that because their skulls look like apes, and then their skeletons slowly started looking like, over time, as time evolved, they started looking like human skeletons, like them started off on like hands and feet, and then they started standing up. Their hands, like their wingspan was much longer than their legs and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the thought process that went through with evolution. But Yasser Qadi was saying that could have happened, Allahu A'lam, but the thing is, with us people, like Homo sapiens, that's what started with Sayyidina Adam. Like, that's, like, first human, that was Sayyidina Adam. What, like, if, I don't know how, like, we don't know, this is like, but like, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted that all these past ape people or whatever existed, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put like Sayyidina Adam right in there, like if it's like dominoes, and he put like that one domino right there, and it just like worked with evolution, then like that, whatever. But what I'm saying is that evolution, everyone says, oh, okay, we came from apes, but the theory itself is that we all came from a single-celled organism. We all have a common ancestor, and that's it. Sorry.
Probably only the boys who came from apes, yeah.
So I just wanted to add something to what Sally was saying. What Yasser Qadi was saying in that talk was that Allah told us that He created the entire universe and the planets and the oceans, but He didn't explain to us how He did it. And that we're not sure. But Allah told us how He created us human beings, and that's what we believe in. So that was the point. We know how Allah created us, but we don't necessarily know how Allah created the rest of the creations.
So I have this question. Apparently there was this theory that whales used to walk.
Is that true? Okay. I don't think it's true, referring to this ayah.
Okay, so that's actually true. It's not a theory. It falls in with evolution, where like there's a lot of like skeletons, like for example whales, where they have that like bone for, they have like the leg bone, but they don't use it or whatever. And that's kind of also what like helps with evolution. Like that's the theory. It's supported by these evidences where some, even like the human body, like sometimes, I don't know, they showed us pictures of like some people with like tails or whatever, and I was like, what is this? Or and like is it called embryology, where the like, that one, that's really strong in evolution, where they look at the embryo and then they're like, oh, everyone looks the same, so we were all animals once. And I was like, what is this? And then so that one, and then the skeletal, where they look at bones and see the bones that people aren't using anymore, and they're like, oh, well, we used to have this, but we don't use it anymore. And I don't know, it's just stuff like that. But there's, that's the thing. It's like appendix. I was just gonna say the appendix. What is she? Like Amma was saying, like we're barely touching the surface with science.
So, I wanted to add on to what Sally said. When I sit with my crazy brothers at home and we have weird conversations, we talk about dinosaurs sometimes, because that's what siblings do. And my brother is a dinosaur genius, both of them actually, and I want them to talk about something they've read in a book. Some animals we have right now have evolved from other animals that were in the dinosaur time. Prehistoric time. Where's Eunice Cornfield? Never mind, we're not going to talk about that, guys. Moving on. Okay, then I'm just going to go to the conclusion.
Let's keep going to your presentation for 5 more minutes.
Okay. So, let's skip that because I only have 5 minutes. So, thank you guys for listening, but before that happens, I have a general conclusion. And basically, I want you guys to think about what you're going to take from all of this. And so, what does Islam encourage science so strongly? Why? And I think the reasons can be presented under 3 different groups. And the first one is knowing God through His creation. And so I believe that Islam is encouraging science because God wants us to know Him more, to get to know Him more and be more connected through the things He's created. And He said in, I think I show it, but in one of the ayahs it says that He wants you to think about the world like Prophet Muhammad did. He wants you to think about how the sky is up there and it's not falling down on us. He wants you guys to think about all the animals that He's created. He wants you to think about the stars and the galaxies. He wants you guys to think about everything so that you get to know Him better. Tafakkur, like Malak said. The second one is elevation of humans through knowledge and rigorous thinking. And so basically I think this is important to take with you guys, because if you think about humans and how they've evolved, not evolved, sorry. And if you think about humans and how Allah created them, you begin to think, wow, Allah has so much power in His hands, and He has to be the real creator. He has to be the one creator of all of this world. And the last one is the need for science in people's lives. Even if we don't think about it, science is around us everywhere. And I know teachers say that all the time, but science is so important to us that we even ponder about it without realizing it. And about 15 people raised their hands in the beginning of the discussion when I asked who liked science. I'm pretty sure every single one of you does, and every single hand should have been up. Because what do you do in your free time? Sometimes you guys might be zoning out into things that we don't want to get into, but sometimes you guys are also thinking about things that like, whoa, what is this? Or like, have you guys ever thought about the tiny animals, ants and bees? Have you guys ever thought about how Allah created all of that? Has anyone? Raise your hands, please. Okay. What have you guys thought about in your free time that is connected to science? There has to be something. No one? Say something, please.
Electricity is good. Fortnite.
If Allah has the power to create from something that's, if Allah creates.
How do ants see us as people? When you brought that up, when I was little, I was like, how big do we look like? When I see an ant, I get disgusted by it. But like, what do ants think when they see me? Like, I'm huge compared to them. Like, my finger is so big compared to them. So like, what do, like, okay, put it like this. My finger is basically a building for an ant. So how if you stand right in front of an ant, like how scared would it be? Or like, sorry, what would it? What would it be? Yeah, well I know, but like she just asked a question, I'm like answering it. Like what I think, something I wondered about was like that.
One day, whenever someone becomes an ant. Hey, Mariam, let me ask you a question, Mariam. There was one question that was bothering me some time ago, and listen, ya shabab, to. Whenever Quran was revealed at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he challenged the people at Mecca at that time to come up with one ayah that looks similar to Quran. Yes or no? How many times did it came in the Quran? So there was a challenge for 10 surah, there was a challenge for surah, there were different ayat, okay? We can ask them for Sheikh Junaid, he escaped there before I take the microphone. سورة مثله سورة من مثله 10 سور. There is the 10, there is the 1, 2 of them they don't have the word men, there is one of them it has the word men. Find those 3 places, we discuss them on the way inshallah. What was the challenge, ya Maryamu, in coming up with some text like the Quran? What was the challenge? Why was it so tough? Those people used to say a lot of things, but what is the problem with coming with some text that looks like Quran? Why they were not able?
It's difficult and it's impossible for humans because
but at that time, so the disbeliever, they said we cannot, and those people, they have no science at that time and they admitted they cannot.
So, it's a difficult question, but my answer is that no one can ever come up with anything even marginally close to what the Quran says. Because the Quran, God is the creator.
Why can't I write some words right now and say this is Quran? And I'm willing to make this test. I can come up with an ayah from the Quran and I can fake up something and give it to those people and ask them to vote which one is Quran, which one is made up, and most of them they will mix it up. Do you want to try?
Yes. Yes.
Why? But do you know, Maryamu, if we make this test over here, those people, they may make mistakes and they may not be able to differentiate between whatever is Quran and whatever I made up. But if you give the same test to the people at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, almost every one of them is gonna say, yeah, for sure this is Quran and this is trash. Because they were the best in the language. There is a miracle in the language of Quran. They can understand at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because they are amazing in the language. We have no idea. Even those who believe that they are good in Arabic, they are nothing compared to the Arabic skills they had at that time. So for them, just writing in Arabic, that was a miracle for them. Now we do not understand this miracle because we do not understand the Arabic. Let's change it the other way around. At the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they did not have that much science, but we have some science as of now. Do you think that we can understand something from the Quran they were not able to understand? Yes or no?
No.
Why? We have science, they do not.
Because if they were the best in the Arabic language.
Yeah, but they were not the best in science. We have more science. They have more Arabic. We have more science.
Okay. I'll answer that too. Because even though we have this advanced technology and science, there's also a bunch of other verses and ayahs in the Quran that we don't understand because we have not gotten to it yet. Like my dad and
I'm not saying we're going to understand every single thing they understood.
Yes.
I'm saying we may understand some other stuff. We may have a different perspective of the Quran, which mean if you read the books of tafsir that was written at specific time, you read the books of tafsir that was written 100 years later, you would find different stuff. For example, you would find in the very old books of tafsir, they would say the sun is in the fourth heaven. Later on they say no, all the stars in the first heaven. For example, do you think that if they understood everything at their time, what is the point of reading the Quran every day? Let me ask you another question. If you yourself read Quran every day, if you read Surah Al-Baqarah today, if you read Surah Al-Baqarah tomorrow, are you going to get the same meaning or different meanings?
Well, the Quran has first meaning that we all understand at first, but then when we keep reading and rereading, we kind of ponder about it more and like, wait, that could also mean this. And in tafsir, there's not only one tafsir even nowadays, there's multiple tafsirs. Because in Arabic, the Arabic language, and the way that God has chosen to reveal the Quran for us, He purposefully did it so that there would be multiple meanings, so that we actually begin to think about it more. And
so let me ask you the question.
Okay.
Should we do more at the field of scientific miracles in Quran, or should we close the door? Is it going to help more people to believe, or it is nonsense? We are tweaking the Quran to fit the science. Should we ask them, doctors, scientists, engineers, to do more in the field of miracles in Quran, or to stop doing this?
They should do it more because
because of what? Yes.
Because when I stated my first point in the general conclusion, I said that the scientific miracles are a big part in the Quran because Allah wants us to find out more about Him and to know Him through His creation.
Did Allah, for example, ask us to check on the Big Bang? Yes or no? Is there any ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands you and me to go and see how Allah started the creation?
No, He actually does not say.
No, there is.
There is?
قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانظُرُوا كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ.
I researched that though.
Go walk on the earth, figure out how Allah started the creation.
No.
Figure out how Allah started the creation. This is an ayah in the Quran.
Okay.
Which is Surah Maulana? Barakallahu feek.
Okay, I guess He does say that.
So Allah is giving you the command to go figure out how Allah started the creation.
But He doesn't say to figure out before He started the creation.
What is before starting the creation?
Okay, before the creation, I think it means
there was nothing but Allah before the creation.
Like, for the disbelievers, I don't think He means to go check out like what created Allah or where Allah came from.
Let me ask you the question. Who's really excited to be a scientist and start looking for those, not only a scientist, but exploring the scientific miracle in Quran? Who would do this? Okay. Yeah, not everyone is going to be everything. Do you believe, Ya Maryamu, that for every single person to believe in Allah, every single man has a different key? So some people believe in Allah because of what? Because of the commandments of Allah. Someone would believe in Allah because of the shara of Allah. Someone would believe in Allah because how the Quran as text was written. And some people may believe in Quran according to science. So do you believe that some people can just believe in Allah because of nothing, because of the scientific miracles in Quran? If you explain it to them, yes or no?
No. Personally, for me, I will confess that I did doubt Islam at points. And I did say, why Islam? Why not Christianity? That feels much better. It looks and seems much better.
Which may happen to many people, yes.
Yes.
Which is natural.
But when I took time to think about that on my 10-minute walk home every single day, I realized that it's actually something bigger than this. It's not just us believing in Allah, the Creator, and the world that we live in and the hereafter. Allah has given us so much proof that Islam is the right path through His scientific miracles, which is why we should still keep searching.
The same way you made a confession, let me make a confession as well. Okay, could you please go to the first slide where you have the references? So why we started this presentation, it is not really to show the scientific miracles in Quran, but I was talking to one of the brothers and he told me there is really a big problem for the Muslim community, especially for the second generation. And if you monitor the second generation who has been raised here in the United States, I'm not saying some of them they are doing something wrong. No, some of them or many of them, they stopped to believe in Allah completely. As you find Maryam, she said, I started to doubt at some point in time. But she said on my 10-minute walk back to home, I figured out, that Islam is the true religion. But actually we don't have many Maryams, by the way. Most of them, they end up in the state of, I don't care, or I don't have to believe. And then the man, the brother I was talking to, he gave me this book, and he said that man, he started to do more research on people who kind of from Muslim families, and they stop believing in Allah. And that man, he wrote this book. It was one part of his effort to talk to those people who believe in science and to try to kind of have the discussion from this door. And as I'm telling you, it is not one and only one door that is gonna work for everyone, but every single person have a different door. That can be a door for some people. You may have a different door. Someone else may have a different door. So one of the problems, ya shabab, and again, let's assume here in this UW, the number of students who are coming from Muslim families relative to the number of Muslim students who really we see them in our meetings or who come to the prayer, it is very small. It is very small. And this is something, ya shabab, it is gonna be on your plate. But you need to start getting trained as early as possible. Whenever you see some of your friends that you used to play with them whenever you were in the kindergarten, and then you meet him in college, and then you tell him, let's go pray Dhuhr. And he would say, is there anyone still who prays? Is there anyone who believes in this? You want to be prepared for that time. You want to make sure you have the conversation in the right way. It is going to be part of your responsibility. Whether you convince them with science, it is a way. Whether you convince them in a different way, that's fine. Every single person have a door. Your job is to find the door, talk to people. You had doubt at some point in time and Allah guided you back. This may not happen for everyone. And you should appreciate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought you back. You should help others who are still in doubt. Make sense? Yes. Any final comment, Maryamu?
Yes.
Please go for it.
I just want to thank everyone for giving me the chance to talk today and for okay.
We have a fair that we need to catch. Can we continue after we come back, inshallah?
Anyway, and I also want to thank Brother Muhammad Ali for giving me the chance to talk. I want to thank everyone who came today to listen or to sleep. Thank you for coming.
May Allah reward you the best, Ya Maryamu. May Allah make you a reason, Ya Maryamu, to guide other people. جزاكم الله خير. ربنا يجعله في ميزان حسناتك يا مريم. And inshallah, and you are waiting for the coming presentations inshallah. طب يا شباب. No. Sit down now. This is one of the most important times to sit down. No, you have to sit down right now. We cannot go to the fair till everything is arranged. Type. Before I turn it to the big boss of the fair, and she's gonna give all the instructions, all the details. There are a few things I need to mention. So inshallah, we're gonna spend some time getting arranged into groups. The fair is gonna be overcrowded. As you know, you have to stick to your group. You have to stick to the